Alors, bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning.
Comité, et ce matin, nous allons...
This morning, we will be undertaking our examination of the main estimates for 2019-2020 with the Honourable Marie-Claude Bibeau. Thank you for coming here this morning. She is the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food. Thank you for coming here. We're delighted to welcome you here.
Of having from the Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Mr. Chris Forbes, Deputy Minister. Welcome to our committee, Mr. Forbes. And as well as Ms. Christine Walker, Assistant Deputy Minister, Corporate Management Branch. Thank you for being with us this morning. And so we will start with the opening statement. Alors, Madame Bibeau, si vous voulez nous donner un petit discours d'ouverture.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad to be back here. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking you and saying how much I appreciate that you do here at this committee. I know that you're very focused on the needs of our farmers, so I thank you for the excellent work you do. I would also like to thank you for your recent reports on mental health and Indigenous peoples in agriculture. These are issues that impact our farming communities across Canada, and they require immediate and urgent action. Today, we're looking at the main estimates for 2019-2020. The estimates underline the government's commitment to the Canadian agriculture and food sector. Over the coming fiscal year, we are budgeting $2.5 billion to support key priorities of the sector. And this morning, I'd like to touch on some of these.
The situation in China continues to be a top priority. Last month, I met with Minister An, my Chinese counterpart, at the G20 ministers meeting in Japan. I expressed Canada's deep concerns with the suspension of Canadian canola exports to China and urged that this issue needs to be resolved quickly. Canada's ambassador to the WTO, the World Trade Organization, has also urged China to work with Canada on solutions. Responding to industry, we have extended the loan limit of the Advanced Payments Program to $1 million for all producers, with $500,000 interest-free for canola producers. The regulations are now in place, and producers will be able to apply for new amounts as early as June 10th. We have also worked with provinces and territories to extend the deadline for agri-stability. This will give producers a greater opportunity to make use of an important risk management tool in uncertain times. We are taking a Team Canada approach. Our working group meets once a week, bringing together the industry, the provinces, and obviously our officials at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada and at Global Affairs Canada as well. Lors de la mission au Japon,
on the Japan mission, I was accompanied by Jim Everson, President of the Canola Council of Canada. We met with some key Japanese importers to look at ways to grow our business in this key market, especially with opportunities opening up under the CPTPP. I also took the opportunity to meet with other G20 ministers, including the European Commissioner of Agriculture, Phil Hogan, to express Canada's concerns with barriers on our durum wheat in Italy and our pulses in India. We continue to diversify trade for our canola and all of our great agri-food products through new free trade agreements such as the CPTPP.
Japan recently announced that it will now accept Canadian beef from animals over 30 months of age. This gives our beef producers full access to Japan so they can take full advantage of new opportunities under the CPTPP. More good news for our farmers and food processors. The U.S. lifted Section 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum, which strengthened our relationship with our largest trading partner. And as you know, the Prime Minister has introduced legislation to ratify the new NAFTA. Last week, he and Vice President Pence both expressed the aim to move forward as quickly as possible to ratification. Le nouvel ALENA est essentiel à notre...
The new NAFTA is imperative for our agri-food industry. The United States and Mexico buy $370 billion of our agri-food products, and we know that we can grow that business even more. We continue to find new ways to do this. We're working closely with Mexico and the United States in order to ensure that we deal with the Asian swine fever. Building on our meeting, which took place in Ottawa last month, Canada and the United States have reached an agreement on the application of zones. This measure will allow safe trade in pork to continue in the event of an outbreak of this serious disease.
Dollars of the estimates will support year 2 of the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. Programs under the partnership are also helping farmers capitalize on opportunities for sustainable growth while adapting to climate change. $70 million in agricultural science to address emerging priorities such as climate change and soil and water conservation. To help meet these goals, our government has committed to hiring 75 new scientists and science professionals in emerging fields of agriculture. And we have launched a world-first Living Laboratories project, bringing scientists and farmers together in the field to conduct environmental research producers can directly apply to their farms. This will help farmers adopt climate-smart technologies at a faster pace. This Made in Canada approach was embraced by G20 agriculture ministers at our meeting in Japan. Environmental sustainability is also a key pillar of our new $50 million Canadian Agricultural Strategic Priorities Program. Monsieur le Président, les semaines à venir.
Mr. Chair, we have a busy few weeks ahead. Later this month, we are aiming to announce the details of our investment of up to $3.9 billion in support of our supply producers. That includes $2.4 billion to sustain the incomes of dairy, poultry, and egg producers as a result of the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement with the European Union and the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. As promised, we will also support our egg producers who have been hit by this. We continue to work with the industry to address the impacts on processing and ensure the long-term health of our sector.
There has been much enthusiasm across Canada. 45,000 people have participated to the consultations, and I have had some excellent discussions on the policy, including at the recent National Conference on Food Security. The policy sets out an ambitious vision to ensure that all people in Canada are able to access safe and healthy food through a healthier and sustainable Canadian food system. So we continue to work hard to advance the industry, Mr. Chair. Encore une fois, je vous remercie de votre excellent travail dans plusieurs.
Once again, I want to thank you for your great work on some key issues impacting our sector, and I look forward to answer any questions. Thank you, Madam Minister, for your opening statement. We will now turn to questions. Mr. Bettold, 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister. I'm happy that yesterday we managed to come to agreement. That was great. And I want to be clear, I don't doubt your interest in defending the agricultural sector in Canada. Nobody wants to work against that sector. It's a sector that we all want to see progress. And I say the same to the department officials. We all want to help our producers to do better and to ensure that we perform well on the international scene. Our methods may be somewhat different from yours. Madam Minister, in your opening statement, you talked about your meeting with your Chinese counterpart. You wrote to your counterpart and you talked about, during a meeting that you had qualified as, I don't know how you say this in English, you talked about an introductory meeting. I don't understand what this meeting was all about. What's meant by an introductory meeting? I'd like you to talk further about that. You said that you discussed matters to a great deal, but you never said what was the answer provided by the Chinese Minister of Agriculture. What did he say? Yes, indeed. I did have an opportunity to meet with the minister when I was in Japan. This was the G20 meetings. The main focus of the meeting was rules-based trade and rules-based decision. So we had a conversation on this, and I had a direct conversation with the minister on this matter. I raised our concerns. I know you've often said that you've often talked about the issues you've raised, but the problem right now is that we're not getting any answer from China. You sent a letter, no response. There was this technical delegation. You had this meeting, no response. The prime minister refuses to talk to his Chinese counterpart to find a solution. You had a conversation with the Chinese minister. What was his answer? Minister Han is responsible for agriculture. When we left, he made he said that he would follow up with his colleagues, particularly the Minister of Customs. And yesterday, our Canadian Food Inspection Agency members followed up with the people from Customs China. So the discussion was based on facts, evidence, and this continues. You didn't ask China to put a halt to its false allegations regarding Canadian agriculture. You talked to your counterpart, but did you ask him to stop these allegations? Do you hope that there will be some type of technical delegation that comes to a resolution? Everybody in Canada is aware of the fact that that's not a technical issue. And you yourself said yesterday in the House of Commons that this was political, but you keep referring to this technical delegation and you keep talking about these technical solutions. You continue, but what about politically? Why is your government refusing to begin this political discussion with China? As a Minister of Agriculture, I will continue defending the quality of our products and our inspection system, which is very reliable. That's fundamental. Yes, but you said you're part of the cabinet. You're there to defend canola producers, pork producers. You have a role at the cabinet to defend producers. So what we want to know is, why is the government being so stubborn about refusing to begin this conversation with China? Why not appoint an ambassador? Why the Chinese ambassador is about to leave? Is it because China doesn't accept our suggestion for an ambassador? We need to start diplomatic relations with China, and you continue to refuse to do so. We work as a team, as I've often said. So this is not just about technical matters, but it's fundamental, and that's why we're working closely with Minister Freeland and with the Prime Minister, who is very involved in this file as well. And as far as diplomacy is concerned, that is Ms. Freeland's jurisdiction. We're looking at all of the tools that we have in our toolbox, all the options that we could possibly take. We have the support from many countries, including the United States, on the importance of but it's not working, and the crisis is worsening. There will be other, perhaps, limitations put on Canadian products officially and unofficially, because so officially we're aware of the problem with canola and pork. Pork is an administrative issue, and we've worked on forms and certificates. And the industry is saying that there are more inspections that are taking place now. We're looking at the process. And what about other products? Should other products be concerned? I've heard about soybeans. Soya, I know. There's a problem. That's the only product that you're hearing about? Thank you, Mr. Bettold. Mr. Dwayne for 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank the Minister for coming in and congratulate you on your appointment to this position, although you have only been a long-term politician, but not so long as a minister. Madam Minister, we have looked at various issues playing out. As MPs, we talk with our producers, and suddenly there's a crisis that occurs. And we see the impact, for example, what this can do to us internationally. I know that you have had meetings with your you intend to have a meeting with your provincial counterparts in July. What will you be discussing in July with your provincial counterparts? Yes, I've already had an opportunity to talk with many of them over the phone. Minister Lamontagne is hosting in Quebec this July, and the provinces are important partners when it comes to agriculture. We also have a pan-Canadian an investment over a 5-year period, which includes funding programs and risk management programs for businesses. So this range of programs is designed to help producers, and we will be reviewing the programs. We will look at all of the improvements made over the past few years, and we will look at how we can reach our objectives and what we'll hear feedback from industry. We'll also talk about the ASF, which is a matter regarding animal health. There are other aspects we will be looking at. There's the Asian swine fever. Labor. Yes, labor is something that is important to us. International trade, opening up markets. Those are the main subjects that are on our agenda in July. Thank you very much. On another issue that's close to my heart, I represent a region where supply management is very important for egg and dairy producers. This is an important issue, and we must say they've been going through tough times for the past 7 to 8 years. There was the various measures taken by previous governments. We want to ensure that these people are being compensated adequately. I'm very pleased that you've taken such a leadership role, and Mr. Lepron is very happy with the announcements made in the last budget, and I say so. It's important that the federal government recognize the importance of international trade agreements on our various industry sectors, such as egg producers, the egg industry. Since the announcement made in the budget, what's been making with supply management? Yes, we made this announcement in the budget, and we talked about compensation for producers from various supply managed businesses, $4 million. I think it was $200 million that was given through an investment program. I became minister 3 months ago, just shortly before the budget came down. And as you know, I was very aware of the Supply Management Office because there's a huge dairy sector in my riding. So I was able to get a handle on this file quite quickly. So we're analyzing the work that's been done by the various task forces. We have now tabled reports that look at the impact on various players, and we now looked at the funding mechanisms that are best, how long these mechanisms should stay in place, whether it be for compensation or other to deal with other issues, because we know the needs of the dairy sector are different perhaps from the poultry and egg producers. So we're looking at the results and the findings of these reports. I wanted to have direct discussions with representatives. I've had some roundtables. I really needed to take the pulse of the producers themselves so that I could make better recommendations to the Cabinet and to the Minister of Finance. And also the Treasury Board has a role to play in this as well. We're talking about distributing billions of dollars here, so it's important that we have some type of mechanism that enables us to really be accountable about this money. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. You have 30 seconds remaining. I met with the canola producers a few months ago, and one of their requests pertain to the advanced payment program. Can you give me an update on this program? We increased the maximum amounts of the program to $1 million. This is permanent, applies to all producers. There's $500,000 is without interest, and this has gone up to now, as I said, $500,000 interest-free.
Rudd, MP for Northumberland Scarborough.
No.
No.
Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Peterborough
But,
South.
but there
All
we go. Close
It
enough.
rhymed, but it wasn't the same thing. Thank you for being here with us today. Mr. McGregor for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, welcome back to our committee. It's good to see you here again. I think my line of questioning is going to be similar to what Mr. Drouin asked. So yesterday during question period, I did ask you specifically about the compensation for dairy processors. I mean, we know about the $3.9 billion that was announced in Budget 2019 for our supply managed farmers. But given that we've known what the probable impact of the 3 trade deals are or have been on our sector for quite some time now, I'm just a little mystified as to why you're still taking time to figure out what our processors need to have as compensation. Can you please explain why we don't have a figure yet for our dairy processors?
When the budget was released, the work of the working group was not completed, and there was a gap or a difference in the understanding of the department and the industry, and we really needed to do much more work. And I also wanted to understand better. So since that time, so for the last 3 months, we had the opportunity to deepen our analysis and sharing data and understanding better the situation. So I'm confident that I will be able to release the information and the compensation, not only for the producers, but also for the processors by the end of the month.
By the end of the month?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay.
I'm working very hard on it.
We'll be looking forward to that. Also related to our processors, you may recall at your last committee appearance, we had an exchange on the tariff rate quotas for our processors, specifically with regard to the European Union. And I was just looking at the transcript of our exchange, and you said you couldn't really give me an answer as to why retailers were getting 55% of the TRQs and our processors 45%. When I speak with the processors, and I'm sure you've spoken with them as well, it just seems to make sense to me that given that our processors have a very intimate understanding of our local dairy market, whereas retailers are huge multinational conglomerates, why is it that you're not giving them more of the TRQ allocation? Why are they only getting 45%? I think they'd really like to know that.
Mm-hmm. So you know that there's a difference in the share of the TRQs between CETA and the Trans-Pacific Agreement. And it's under the responsibility of Minister Carr, the Minister of International Trade Diversification, is going through a review. So I can tell you that we had quite a few conversations on the subject. I can assure you that he understands the issue and the requests and the expectation.
This must matter to you not only as minister, but as a member of parliament.
Absolutely.
I mean,
No, you're
region,
right.
Yeah.
But I also have to respect the responsibilities of my colleagues, and I can tell you that we talk about it on a regular basis. He's going through a full review right now of the TRQs of all the agreements we have, so including CETA, the Trans-Pacific, even the WTO, and obviously looking at the new NAFTA as well. So
the reason for the inertia, are you feeling pressure from the retailers not to change the current structure? Is that what's going on? Why the delay, and maybe perhaps how much time will it take for our processors to get an answer on this question?
Well, it's not. There has been some agreement in the share to start with when the agreements were signed for the two first. And I mean, it's not such a delay. We had to see how it, de quelle façon ça s'est déployé, roll out, and what were the impact, and how it's being, how the small, the medium, and the big one benefits from that. So this is why we have to go through this review, and we're talking about months, not years. And so, I mean, this is, we care about, you know, we really want to hear from the processors and to understand their reality. I do it, Minister Carr does it as well, and we want to find the best solution and for a longer term period. So now I would say that we are in a transition period, and we want to do, you know, the best for our industry.
Okay, thank you for that. I think in my remaining time, I also want to revisit the issue of China and our canola. So I was at the International Trade Committee in April when you appeared. I was here on May 2nd when you were before our committee, and here you're back on June the 6th. Have we had any movement on a high-level delegation getting access to China?
The latest movement we had was yesterday night. We had a new conversation between, you know, scientists and specialists from the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and Customs China.
I recall you saying that the president of the CFIA wanted to go. I mean, the crux of my question is, at what point are we going to regard this as an insult? And, you know, what other measures are we going to start employing to get some movement on this issue? Because it just seems to be stuck really quite badly.
Discussions, there was a little time between the last discussion and this one, and yesterday night we agreed, and they agreed to have more sustained discussion, telephone conference on the subject, and they did not close the door to the delegation because we ask for it again, as I did when I met with Minister An in Japan. So we are still asking for that, but the conversation has been reactivated, and yesterday we could feel that we were at a different level of, you know, getting into what we want to talk about, the evidence and everything. So this is encouraging. I will go back to Minister Han and you know, ask again for this delegation. We still believe that it would be easier for our scientists to have a face-to-face discussion to understand the issues on both sides and to find a lasting solution.
Thank you, Madame la Ministre. Merci, Mr. McGregor. Now, Ms. Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Mr. Longfield.
Chair, and thanks, Madam Minister, for being here for the second time in a month. It's a great committee in terms of focus on agriculture and farms, and I think even when we're working on reports, we do have a common focus. It's actually one of the things I really enjoy with Parliament is the interaction we have with the committee, and I really like seeing our work end up in budgets. And the food policy was a big study we did. We worked on together. We hashed out things. We made recommendations. $19 million has been included in the 2019-20 estimates. $134 million over 5 years for the food policy. We've never had a food policy. And so one of the questions is, how do we come up with the numbers? What process are we following? And how do we allocate the funds, or how are they going to be used?
So there's been a very, very important consultation before that. So I want to acknowledge as well the work of my predecessor, Minister McCauley. Of course, it's been a very interesting process, and especially when we see that 45,000 people participated to this consultation, we could feel that Canadians are asking for such a food policy. And I would say that the estimates and the first phase, because I believe that it's kind of a first phase that we have announced in the budget, and I strongly hope that it will be a lasting, you know, policy, and it will get into our GNA in Canada. So there will be a fund for local infrastructure. And the amount that has been allocated to that is $50 million. Another one will be working on promoting Canadian products. And for the last 3 months, I had the chance to meet with so many farmers, and I think we have so many good stories to tell. And I want to make sure that this part of the food policy promoting Canadian products also include getting Canadians to know better, to know more about our Canadian agriculture and about the good work that our farmers is doing, to understand better where their food come from, and to strengthen the trust and the pride between consumers, Canadian consumers, and farmers. And there will be a $25 million attached to this portion. Tackling food fraud will also be something important. Canadians told us that they worry. I mean, even if we are confident on our actual system, I don't have any doubts on the safety, but still, when there is a product that comes under one name and later on we understand that there's other ingredients into it, so we want to be stronger on that to make sure that we buy what we think we're buying. And this is something that Canadians care about a lot. There will be some funds directly allocated for our northern and isolated community, and it's we're talking about $15 million specifically dedicated to these communities. And food waste is also an important part of the food policy.
So I'd like to build on that last point. I'm really glad to hear you say that. Recently, Guelph and Wellington County was awarded $10 million to create Canada's first circular food economy. One of the main goals of that is to reduce food waste and to take food waste as an input for other things like energy or like making bioplastics or things we can do from food waste. So how can, as a member of parliament, how can I tie in some of these innovative programs to the food policy? Do you have any, or your staff, or your officials, do you have any idea? We talk about all of government approach. There's a lot of innovation around food, and there's a lot of funding around innovation that's separate from agriculture. So how do we bring all this good energy together?
Well, specifically on food fraud, we want to go, and I don't know if I've said that, but not food fraud, but food waste, sorry. Reducing food waste, it's $26.3 million attached to that, and we want to go through a challenge program. So really try to find the best ideas to encourage the communities the businesses and the NGOs to work together and to find innovative solutions to tackle food fraud, food waste. And hopefully after that there will be a second phase. The idea is to have a second phase and then to use these best ideas and to scale up and to bring them in other communities as well.
Super. And food fraud is something the University of Guelph works on through the Barcode of Life project. I know they've been participating with the department on that as well. The main estimates also have $7.5 million for supporting the clean technology program, the agriculture clean technology. We did a study on climate change impacts on soil health and clean technology. This has increased $3 million over the previous estimates. Could you explain where we're heading with agriculture clean technology and as a program, please?
Yes. So the clean technology last year was at its beginning. So it was why the amount of money was a little bit less than it is this year. So we are kind of on arrive plus à une vitesse de croisière.
Hitting our cruising speed now.
That's why we have an increase in the amount of money.
Terrific. Thank you very much. It's always great to see you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Longfield. Merci, Madame la Ministre. And now, Mr. Rudd for 6 minutes. I think I got it right this time.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here today, and thank you, Minister, for coming. I have two areas. I come from Northumberland Peterborough South, which is a rural riding in eastern Ontario, and I was glad my colleague, Mr. Drouin, brought up the supply management package that we have provided or are providing. I want to talk about another thing that I think certainly my farmers wish they didn't have to have or need, but the risk management programs. And those programs and Agri-Stability, Agri-Invest, Agri-Marketing, there's a number of them. And I know part of your role is to meet, and you mentioned the meeting you're going to have this summer with the federal, provincial, territorial ministers meeting, and the number of things you have on the agenda. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you see your role and your ability to strengthen those partnerships with the provinces and territories, provinces particularly, around those funds, and how we can best deploy them to our agriculture sector when they need them.
So last year it was a new a new 5 years Canadian partnership that started. So this year we will have the opportunity to look back and to see what our objectives were, and also we will be mainly new ministers who were not there before, the previous meeting. So it will be a good opportunity for all of us to really understand why some changes have been brought to these programs, because obviously I hear a lot from the producers on, some of these agri programs. They would like sometimes to go back with previous rules, sometimes to see a different type of approach. So we are all thinking about it. Our teams are making the analysis, and we are also open to any maybe new partnership, bringing new partners, maybe bringing private partners on board in different ways. So I would say that everything is on the table, but we are hearing what our farmers are telling us. But still, these programs have been developed to be to face different type of challenges that a farmer can face. And we can see that it's working. Only the agri-stability, considering the situation we have this year, we have seen a significant increase in the agri-stability this year. So we can see that our programs are working. Can we do better? Probably we can always do better. And I really look forward to have this discussion and to share ideas. But already our teams are challenging each other and trying to, make suggestions.
Certainly, I hear from my farmers that the effects of climate change, farmers are really at ground zero of climate change. They see it every day in the work that they do. So I think the review of those programs to ensure that we're addressing the constantly changing reality for them is extremely important. And I just quickly wanted to just bring something to your attention. So we have something in my riding called the Ontario Agri-Food Venture Centre. And MP Durant has his whole, I think, municipal council came to visit us last summer and had a great tour. And it was really a creation of the community, of the agriculture community. They saw this as something they needed that wasn't there. And what they do is small batch processing fruits and vegetables, but there's a whole wraparound effect in terms of marketing, production, business supports, and those kinds of things. And what we've seen is that these small producers have not just now gotten into national markets, but international markets. You may or may not know that we have the largest saffron producing area in the country. And who knew? We think saffron comes from overseas, but it actually, and so saffron is now on the international markets for my riding, and it's in a variety of things from mustards to vinegars and etc. So I guess maybe if you could talk a little bit about how that partnership with international trade diversification is not just an opportunity for large producers and processors, but where we may be able to find those niche markets that maybe we never thought of 5 years ago.
You're right. Diversification is not limited to finding new international markets. It's a big part of it. We have great opportunities, but finding new markets here in Canada and developing new niche, as you said, new products. This is something that we want to, invest even more. And actually, we have increased our investment as well. Because we are still exporting a lot of raw products. So I think we have a lot to gain through investing in processing, and not necessarily the usual products, but finding specific niche that would be interesting. So this is why we are investing in different type of programs for innovation as well. You might have seen that now there's $100 million dedicated to agriculture in the FIS, the SIFA in English, Strategic Innovation Fund. This is always a challenge, the acronyms in French and English. So we are investing a lot into it to try to find new opportunities for our producers. And if I may come back to your previous comment saying that our producers are the first, to realize that the impact of climate change. And as I was the Minister of International Development, and I was always amazed when I was with farmers in the middle of Vietnam or anywhere in the world, and they were talking to me about climate change. That was something very important. And talking about yours, I think it will be interesting to follow up on the local food infrastructure fund. There might be opportunities for small and medium organizations in different regions to get better organized, to work together, and keeping in mind that the objective is to give access to safe and healthy and even culturally diverse food as well to the people who are most in need in our community. So that could be an opportunity that they will see shortly.
Thank you, Madame la Ministre. Thank you, Mrs. Rudd. And now Mr. Dreeshen for 6 minutes. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here. Just, I suppose one of the first comments I want to make, there was an inquiry to the Ministry from David Anderson done on April the 9th talking about canola crisis. And the response that we got back on May 27th said the Government of Canada's approach has been to defend and support a world-class canola industry and our farmers. Our goal is to find a science-based solution to a science-based problem within the rules-based trading system. In there as well, there was a parenthesis, and it said, can be said better. So this was both in the English and the French version that we had. Thankfully, that wasn't, and we heard that for a number of weeks, that all of this has to be the science-based plan. Fortunately, we've moved off of that, and it's not the talking points anymore. It's more, let's talk about the actual politics that is associated with this. And when we look at that, we've seen Italy, India, Saudi Arabia, Peru, Vietnam, all of these countries have imposed unwarranted market restrictions on Canadian farmers. There does not seem to be a response from the government on each of these things. The Western Canadian Wheat Growers Association estimates that the above list of countries represents over $4.2 billion in direct export sales annually. And with a multiplier effect, it's a potential loss to our economy of about $6.3 billion. The question is, do you see any connection between this and what is happening in China? If we are not standing up strong with these other countries that have come up with these non-tariff trade barriers, is that not part of the reason why China looks at us and says, you know what, we can keep going and doing this, and we're not going to get a response? And do you believe personally the arguments from China are in any way, shape, or form true?
Well, I mean, we are really engaged in all of the files and in all the countries you have mentioned. We stand strongly for our farmers, and once again, the biggest strength we have here in Canada, it's the fact that we are providing very high quality products and that our inspection system is very reliable. And I was in Japan recently, and I can tell you how the Japanese government and the Minister of Agriculture and how they reinforce this fact that Canada is a very reliable partner.
Absolutely, and I agree. One of the comments that you had said earlier, that CFI yesterday had followed up with people from customs in China. I'm curious whether or not that had anything to do with canola, or whether or not it was back to the announcement that was made that there's going to be more intense scrutiny with meat products that are going to China. Was that a canola issue that this CFIA was looking at, or did it have to do with meat inspections?
It was specifically related to canola.
Okay, that'd be, I think folks would be interested in knowing that. The other thing perhaps you might want to correct, you had said that Canadian producers, that there's a $500 thousand without interest. That, of course, is only on the canola portion that is associated with that, and you don't need to correct it. I think it could have perhaps simply been a slip of the tongue. Food policy is something that you spoke of, and and again, it's how you spin food policy. When people start to suggest, well, we can do this to make sure that Canada has a secure and safe food system. We have the best in the world. And unfortunately, we allow other actors to come in and we'll say, well, we'll maybe pay a little attention to what's happening here. We'll pay some attention to what's happening there. The reality is that we should be standing up and saying that we do have the best in the world. And that some of these comments and that come from, quite frankly, some rather ludicrous arguments. We've had study here when we were talking about and witnesses when we were talking about analyzing public perception as far as food is concerned, front of packaging labeling. And as you know, you've probably heard whether or not you actually believe that yogurt is something that we should be afraid of, because that would be something that would be on the front of label packaging. We also hear situations like as far as GMO is concerned. When you have a list, as was mentioned by one of our witnesses, of genetically engineered maple trees and durum wheat and Hunt's tomato sauce and Himalayan rock salt and engineered tea and coconuts and genetically engineered bacon, these are ridiculous comments that are there, and people say, let's put that on a label. All it does is scares people. And I'm wondering, when we're talking about a food policy, if our food policy shouldn't start off as this is the very best that we have. These comments that are coming from these outside sources, they are doing it to protect their investments. They are not doing it to protect Canadians.
Okay, there's many questions within this one. I said earlier how important it is for me in the Buy Canadian promotion campaign not to only do marketing action, but to reinforce and strengthen the trust and the pride of Canadian in front of our Canadian agricultural products. I stand strongly, and we all believe and we all defend and promote and are proud of our best system.
So does that mean then
we agree?
Yeah. So does that mean that you will be one of them? You did say we want people to know that what they think they're buying is what is actually buying. So we'll be standing up to make sure that people understand that some of these claims that are coming are in fact not accurate.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
because when we've done the consultation, it came as a worry. Something that Canadians want to be reassured, and this is why I'm saying in the same sentence, we have to acknowledge, but in the same time we have to show them, to make the demonstration, to share the good stories of our, what we are doing in our Canadian agricultural sector. We have to be proud of and we can trust. And this is something that is very, very important. The food policy, the main objective of the food policy is to give access. It's not a matter of we all know that we have safe products in Canada, but it's not everyone who has access to the most healthy or to diverse, diverse food. So this is much more the issue, making sure that everyone has access to healthy and obviously safe food.
Mr. Chair,
sorry.
I'm sorry. I'd love to have another question, but I should save it for some of our other...
It's already 1 minute extra.
I know.
So, Madame Nassif, allez-y pour 6 minutes.
Madame Nassif, thank you for coming here. Madam Minister, we've seen you twice in 1 month. Recently, you went to Japan to participate in the G20 Agricultural Minister meeting. You met with your counterparts there from other countries in the G20, including the representative for China. Can you share with us the details of this discussion you had as a result of this meeting? Thank you. Yes, indeed. We did participate in the G20 meeting, and we talked about the importance of having trade rules that we can rely on. It's fundamental for market stability. And we need to make science-based decisions. So this was a perfect opportunity for me to have this conversation with the Minister of Agriculture for China, and I expressed clearly what our concerns were and the fact that we have seen Canadian businesses have their export license suspended because there was a so-called problem with our canola. And I said we did all kinds of inspections, and there's no evidence whatsoever to show that there is one. And if there is a problem, tell us, because we want to do something about it. I really focused on the importance of having this decisions made based on science. Our scientists, our specialists have to meet with theirs. And there's a minister. He's a minister of agriculture. He's not the minister of customs. So I could see that he was noting my message. He talked to his colleagues about this, and then yesterday the Canadian Food Inspection Agency had a more technical conversation with their counterparts. So we get the impression there will be some follow up on yesterday's conversation. Is there a linkage there? I can't confirm that, but at least action is occurring, and our scientists are talking to each other. And you talked about spin-offs. Could you talk us about spin-offs from this G20? Generally speaking, well, I would say it's always important to meet with these people. There's the official agenda, but there's also an opportunity to have bilateral meetings. So I had an opportunity to meet with the Commissioner for the European Union. We had an opportunity to talk about the fact that our wheat was being blocked from Italy. And I had a lot of bilateral and multilateral meetings. We talked about the Asian swine fever. That's an issue of concern to us. And we're lucky that here in Canada, we don't have this disease here, so that's an opportunity for our producers. I also talked to the Minister of Agriculture from Argentina and talked about canola. We also had a meeting with the United States, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, and ourselves, and this discussion focused in particular on the importance of having a united continent when it comes to making science-based decisions. So we have to have a common front when there are issues at play, and we have to make sure that the trade rules and the decisions are based on science. So we had many opportunities to either defend or to activate, if you like, more conversations with these countries, and we talked about the multilateral approach. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Berthaud, for 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Minister, thank you for the clarification that you provided regarding your Japan meeting. I think it's important that we have conversations with people from other countries, but results are important. We've got very few results here for Canada because all of these files that you mentioned, well, there are no solutions to the problems. We're not able to properly defend our Canadian producers, and that's the big problem. We talk, at least the government talks a great deal, but nothing's being resolved. And people are expecting solutions. So we want ministers to talk to each other, and we want the Prime Minister to defend Canadian producers internationally, not just defend ministers. We have a lot of files, and I have a lot of questions I could ask you. We'd be happy to keep you for a second hour if you'd like. We talked about animal transportation. We've had a lot of feedback about animal transportation. There's new regulations that are going to be implemented next week. Your own department is undertaking a study that's not yet completed. Why don't you wait and see the results of the study done by your own department before going ahead with regulations? The Canadian Food Inspection Agency undertook a very in-depth study on this file, but I'm talking about your department. Your department is in the process of carrying out a very exhaustive study on animal transportation. Industry keyholders are looking for concrete results. Your government is, however, going ahead with regulations before we get the findings of your own report. A lot of studies have been done, and we have adequate results for going ahead. With the proposed change, yes, we make decisions based on facts. So you agree with the regulations? We're going ahead with the regulations, and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is an open process. But as a minister, do you agree with the changes that are going to be soon implemented? The Americans announced billions of dollars to help American farmers deal with various issues. What is the Canadian government's plan to deal with these billions of dollars that are going to rain on American farmers? Because we've given some help for supply management agencies, but they're going to increase their subsidies. So, Madam Minister, what's the government's plan to support our Canadian producers given this difficult economic context? I don't know how you can say that we haven't asked for any concessions. Madam Minister, we're not laughing at all. I didn't ask for concessions, and no producers are laughing here, because indeed the supply management producers have been helped, but you've got nothing back from the United States to deal with this issue, and I think we were very clear about this. Madam Minister, I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Shipley. This will be his last intervention. He is going to be taking his retirement soon, so I have to give him the last question.
I was looking at TRQ allocation, processors, retailers. Processors are linked to producers. You've now, I'm wondering, because now you're again, as we did with the environment, supporting the large retailers with a lot of money, the opportunity for money. Why are you standing by and allowing that to happen instead of standing up for the processors that actually our producers will grow their industry only if we can grow the processors?
I understand what you're saying. So I'm working closely with Minister Carr, who's responsible, obviously, for the TRQs, and he's right now going. He's doing a consultation because he's doing a full review of the TRQs, including those for CETA, the agreement with Europe, the agreement with the Trans-Pacific, the WTO as well, and obviously he's looking at NAFTA. So we are taking it very seriously, consulting our partners and obviously processors.
Minister, you're the Minister of Agriculture.
Yep.
You're the Minister of our producers. Mm-hmm. And so I am hoping that actually you have the authority over him around the table to support Canadian producers in supply management so that they can grow, because quite honestly, during the NAFTA, we gave it all away without getting anything back in return. You protected a couple of things. And so now we have this opportunity to give our producers some help.
Thank you, Mr. Shipley. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Will you stay
Mr.
another
McGregor,
hour?
on va peut-être dépasser d'une minute. Est-ce que c'est correct?
We may go over by a minute. Is that all right? We'll give 3 minutes to Mr. McGregor. Go ahead.
Chair, for doing. I think like what Mr. Shipley and I have been trying to get on with the processors and with our trade through the European Union is their intimate understanding of the local market. Retailers, they're just going to sell cheese, right? It could be European cheese, Canadian cheese. They don't have an understanding of how to maybe combine the two so it doesn't hurt our local market, not to the same extent that our processors do. So I think that's the point we just really want to get across to you, is that our processors should have more of that TRQ because of their intimate understanding of the local market. My other question is, on Friday, I got the chance to go to Summerland in the Okanagan to the research center that AAFC has there, staffed by amazing people, really dedicated to their craft. hiring more scientists, which is a great thing to see. And I'm particularly interested in the work that they're doing on soil health. The research on that is fascinating, and I'm glad to see that we are allocating more resources. My question, though, Minister, is, I mean, you've acknowledged climate change is a huge issue. Our farmers are as well. What kind of projections is the department doing with regards to climate change and the costs that could be coming our way? You know, if farmers are facing more droughts, more floods, there's going to be a bit more strain on perhaps the help that they're asking for. Is the department looking at that particular issue for the damage it could cause our future budgets?
Yes, absolutely. And we have within our, I think I can say, business risk management tools, the Agri Recovery Program, which specifically target the extreme weather events. And we have had some requests. Well, I remember recently we have agreed to, because this is a request that has to come from a province. When they have seen, because of a drought, because of fire, because of flood, for example, then the province will be opening the file and asking for the funds. And for this type of programs, there is no limited envelope. It's related. I'm okay when I say that. Yeah. So the amount of money that will be made available to our farmers is related to the demand. So it's not a closed envelope for that type of program.
But you are making projections for what those costs
Of
could
course.
be. Okay.
And investing a lot in innovation and trying to find ways to be more resilient, obviously, and having a very strong climate plan to fight against climate change overall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Madame Bibeau, la ministre.
Madam Bibeau, Madam Minister, thank you for coming here this morning and sharing your expertise and concerns with us with respect to the agricultural sector and the main estimates.
Mr. Forbes and Assistant Deputy Minister will stay with us for the second hour. Alors, on va suspendre pour quelques minutes pour changer.
So we'll spend for a few minutes so that we can change panels.
bienvenue à notre deuxième
So, welcome to our second hour. We will resume our meeting.
hour. We have Mr. Chris Forbes, Deputy Minister of Agriculture. Thanks for staying with us the second hour. And also Christine Walker, Assistant Deputy Minister. Thanks for joining us. So I guess there's no opening statement, so we'll go right to the question. So Mr. Dreeshen, you want to get this going
Sure.
for 6 minutes?
Sure. Well, thank you very much, and it's good to have the department here so that we can ask a few other questions and perhaps go through a few different things that we didn't have a chance to speak to the minister about. There was a Stats Canada report that just came out a couple of days ago, and we often hear glowing things about how the Barton report is going to make it so they're at $75 billion, and look at how great that is going to be for agriculture. There's always a lot of money in farming, but it doesn't necessarily get to the farmer. And I think that's really the critical part, as we've seen, because according to the report from StatsCan, the realized net farm income of ag producers fell 45% in 2018. And that's been the largest percentage decrease since 2006, followed by which followed a 2.8% decline in 2017. The critical relationship, the things that are associated with this, of course, and that takes into account inventory, it takes in pricing and volumes and so on. But one of the key things is the increases for costs for farmers. And so in rising feed costs, interest, labor costs, new regulations that we see being added to a small business. We also see changes as far as taxation is concerned. And of course, we do see the one that I know I tend to talk about it a lot, but a carbon tax. So the costs that are associated with this, you continually add them up. Prices go up for the farmer. Income goes down for the farmer. And the comment was made earlier as well about climate change. And of course, producers are the first ones to recognize climate change, but they're also the first to speak out against a carbon tax as a solution for that. So there is a need for real solutions. The knee-jerk things that we do, of course, that was done when we thought that the U.S. was going to be engaged with some sort of North American carbon pricing, and then the way in which we were trading around the world would have something like that included in it. We also saw countries that were competitors of ours, like Australia, saying, yeah, we'll give this a try. Didn't take long for them to make that change. So here we have farmers that recognize that, yes, there may be some great ideas as to how we can expand, but they aren't going to be the ones that are going to benefit in this unless we can find a way to look at the cost side of this as well. I wonder, perhaps, Mr. Forbes, if you could speak to some of the things that your department sees as concerns as far as the cost sides for our agricultural producers.
Sure. Why don't I take a stab at that? And thanks for the question. And I think you accurately portrayed, I think the net income numbers for last year. I mean, it was driven by a range of cost increases. And so, I mean, some of those interest rates, obviously, the cost of carrying debt rose a little bit last year. And we do have programming, obviously, between the Farm Credit and ourselves to support, financially, I think, people looking to borrow. On some of the other costs, I guess I would maybe put forward a couple of points. I mean, I would start with our research agenda writ large, which is actually about how to find, if you will, more productive ways, improve productivity of our crops, make them more, drought tolerant, adapt to some of the changing climatic conditions, so that we can, maintain the productivity and in many cases reduce some of the input costs, right, associated with running a farm. Let's try to think about other aspects. We do have, obviously, on our programming side, innovation programming that again would work for the extension of innovative on-farm practices. Whether it's in the practices themselves or in the equipment and tools that are available. These are some of the things that would be out there that would tackle some of the cost increases and try to improve sustainability. Sorry, the one other I'll mention is labor, actually, which is obviously a big, both in terms of availability and cost. And you raised that, Mr. Dreeshen. There, I think we work closely with our provincial colleagues with the sector to look at better understanding labor market conditions, what we can do to improve access to labor, predictions about labor, how provincial programming and federal programming can work together to support the sector.
Just in the time that I've got remaining, I think, the farmers are the first ones to adapt to the technology. I know governments, we sit back and say, well, this is our idea as to how farmers are going to be able to do better. Well, quite frankly, they're years ahead of anything government ever does. And so, I mean, they are looking, but they're looking at the tools that they need to have as well, like the GMO products and all of these other types of things. They're looking at regulations, competitive edges that they could have. Look at gene editing in Europe versus what we have in North America. If you put those two things together and started to look at it from square one, people would be horrified with how those genes are changed in Europe. But unfortunately, we're behind the eight ball. We found we have these different groups that are out there denigrating everything that we do, and we need a government that's going to stand up to that. And I'm just wondering if that awareness and that desire to stand up and fight against some of these nonsensical types of things that are coming from afar is something that the department is
Thank you, Mr. Dreeshen. Do you want me to? We might have a chance to. Well, if you want to give a quick reply on that.
Well, I'll just go quickly. I mean, I think from the public servant standpoint, I mean, we are an international fora arguing for science-based solutions and for science-based approaches to regulations. I would say we do. I mean, I understand the point about regulation and trying to make it as efficient. We want to maintain the strength of our regulatory system, the reputational advantage that it gives us, but at the same time, we've got to make it as efficient as possible. And this has been raised to us through numerous fora. It's not news to you.
Thank
It's
you,
not news
Mr.
to me.
Mr.
So
Forbes.
we're working on that for sure.
Thank you. Mr. Picciolito for 6 minutes.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Chris, great to see you again. Madam Walker, welcome. As you know, Chris, the Agriculture Committee has been studying the African swine flu outbreak. To use a very vernacular phrase, this could be very, very bad. Where in China, depending on who you speak to, a third to half of their livestock, hogs, have been culled or will be culled. It's expanding into Vietnam. There's concerns about it in Hong Kong. There are isolated cases in other parts. We've been studying the issue here at committee, and I believe the department has also been looking at it and dealing with international stakeholders. Are we prepared for this? What are we doing to make sure that A, we don't have it here in Canada, and B, God forbid, if it does come here, what will we do in response?
So maybe just I can give you a high-level answer. I also have a colleague here from the CFIA if you'd like me to bring him.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, maybe I could ask
yes.
Jaspinder. Could you come forward? And so Jaspinder Kamal is the chief veterinary officer at CFIA, and he is at the front line really of this work. And so, if you're okay being put on the spot, Jaspinder, you can talk a little bit about what you're doing.
So, can you give me the question again?
Sure.
Sorry.
I'm chewing. I apologize for that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Are we
sure.
prepared, and how are we prepared? What are we doing in preparation?
Yeah. So, as you know, thank you for the question. As you know, we've been working at it for some times now, and the forum that we had in Ottawa, we wanted to raise the global awareness in addition to being prepared in Canada and U.S. To try to prevent this, infection coming here. We also wanted to make sure that the region of Americas is also free from it. So, following from that, we had a meeting last week of the G7 countries, CVOs, and also then the OIE, World Organization for Animal Health in Paris. So at the G7 countries, they recognize Canada's leadership on this, and then also following that at the OIE, and all the conclusions and the next steps on this were actually incorporated into the resolutions at the OIE. And countries are now on high alert, both countries with infection and countries who don't have it, thinking that it's a global issue and we need to tackle it together. When it comes to preparing in Canada, we have worked a lot on strengthening our borders, strengthening the biosecurity at the farm. We are now getting into making sure that we are prepared in case the infection comes into Canada in terms of, do we have agreements with other countries for business continuity? Do we have, if in case it happens, do we have enough resources, labs prepared, our inspectors are prepared, and we have our provinces with us to work with us, industry is there to work with us. So we're working on all those things.
I think the last point that Dr. Kamal made, that there is a lot of work with provincial partners because they have an important role in this, and of course industry as well, both in terms of their actions and communication to their members. And so it is a collaborative approach, as he describes, with international partners as well.
Why don't we assume that we will make sure that it doesn't come here? But if it does come here, it'll probably be quite devastating, and then we're going to have to regroup somehow. And the way to regroup is to make sure that the actual hog farmers are compensated quickly. I'm not that concerned about the other stakeholders in the industry because I think they're big enough to take care of themselves. But for the farmers, will there be some flexibility in the compensation plan so they can get the money quickly?
So maybe I'll the point I'd make I think the first point I'd say is if it were to come here, I think the points that Jaspinder made around biosecurity, containment, how we set up, zones and make sure that we constrain it, right, is actually the number one thing we can do should it come. And that, not to downplay the importance of compensation, but to say, I think that that's what we'd have to do, right? Limit, if it were to show up, any spread, and that's, I think, where a lot of the focus from the CFIA standpoint would be on compensation. I mean, I can't prejudge any subsequent decisions, but other than to say, obviously, to the extent that this was a significant impact on the sector, I mean, I think governments, federally and provincially, the Minister talked about some of the programming that we have in place already. We would, I think, stand ready to work with the sector to help them recover and get over this issue. Again, both in terms of containment, international markets, doing our best to keep them, keep them open, reopen them, whatever it is, and also then on a domestic front.
Okay. Just changing gears slightly, someone earlier on, could have been Mr. Dreeshen or Mr. McGregor, talked about food security. After the last election, the agriculture minister was in his mandate letter, and I'm assuming in Madame Bibeau's mandate letter, that food security from the Prime Minister was one of his key focuses. Can you tell the committee where we are on that and specific programs and approaches that we will be implementing on a food security platform?
So this was part of the food policy announcement in the budget, which is for $134 million over 5 years. Food security was one aspect of that, and the minister, I think, covered a couple of the programs. One for infrastructure, a local infrastructure fund, which would improve access. Trying to get better access to increase access to safe to food generally across the country for projects that would do that. Also, at northern and remote communities. Project fund to specifically focus on some of those areas, which the evidence shows have some of the higher rates of food insecurity. And there's $19 million in these estimates to start rolling that program out this year.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes, and I also want to welcome, of course, no stranger to our committee, Dr. Jaspinder Kamal, who is the Vice President, Science Branch, Chief Veterinary Officer, and World Organization for Animal Health Delegate for Canada. Thanks for joining us at the table. And also, I'd like to our front bench keeps changing. Mr. MP Maloney and MP Scott Sims, and also MP Schultz join us now. Not unlike the hockey team and the basketball team, the bench sometimes have to change. So thanks for joining us here today. Mr. McGregor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Forbes, Ms. Walker, and Dr. Kamal for being here. The main estimates for this fiscal had an 11.5% increase to the Canadian Grain Commission. And in Budget 2019, it was stated that the Canadian Grain Act has not been substantially updated in decades, and its requirements are not aligned with the current market realities. It goes on to talk about a broad-based review of the Act and of the operations of the Canadian Grain Commission. Now, I don't think we've got enough runway left in the 42nd Parliament for an amendment to the Act. Could you inform this committee as to what AAFC has done with regard to a review of the Commission and the Act? And are there regulatory changes coming? Because the reason why is I know there are some people that want to see the Grain Commission change, but there are also a number of farmers who like the role it has played and currently plays. So I'm just wondering how you're taking those differing viewpoints into account.
So this is something that we're working. We have not kind of launched formal consultations yet. So there, as you pointed out, there's no immediate change coming. We are looking at how to start a process of engagement, and to emphasize your point, I think it would be one that would be broad and inclusive. We would want to hear from all the players, pardon me, in the sector, all those with voices, and I think it would be a chance to find the issues. I mean, some of them have come up in previous discussions, but get a good sense of what the current issues are about the functioning of the Grain Commission. And as you say, I mean, there will be some who are supportive of it in its current form, others who have, big concerns, small concerns. We want to hear all those and kind of formulate a bit of a plan forward. Like,
yeah, nothing
not
major
yet,
happening
no,
on it.
yeah.
Okay. There was a question to the minister when she was here in the previous hour about the changes to the animal transport regulations, and I know that our ultimate goal is the welfare of the animals, and however, like when I talk to especially to the beef industry, like they note that they have a 99.6% success rate, and they keep telling me and many of my colleagues that if you're shortening the number of hours that an animal can be transported, like especially with cattle, like the loading, the unloading, mixing with other stocks, the transfer of disease, there are some real concerns that this could actually maybe be to the detriment of the animals in question. And these are farmers who handle the animals as a part of their livelihood. I'm just wondering how your department is squaring with what they're telling us.
Well, I know, Jaspinder, do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So the humane transport regulations have been 10 years in coming. We have been working on these. The last time these regulations were put in place were in the 70s. So we wanted to modernize these. And we know there's a study going on. Well, we looked at all the studies that were currently present, and we wanted to update because these regulations were created when the transport system was different. It was by rail, and the times were set at that time, and it was actually impeding the innovation in the industry. With these, we took all the information and we tried to bring a balance, looking at the geographical reality in Canada, looking at other countries, looking at what the OIE suggests us. And we sort of came into the middle, but we understand that there's still more research going on, and we'll continue to look at that. I must say that when we did this, when we put the package together, we looked at the current reality. 98% of these shipments were in compliance of what we proposed. So that's where we went, and we had a lot of consultation with all stakeholders. And given the welfare is pretty important to consumers, to international community from trade perspective, it plays a lot of role on all front. And given we are an exporting nation, we can't be left behind because we need to use that as a negotiating tool when we are doing market access to other countries.
Okay, thank you for that. My final question is just with regards to the food policy. So $19 million in this fiscal year will go to things like a local food infrastructure fund, Buy Canadian promotion campaign, and a food waste reduction challenge. Canada's a big country. $19 million is a lot of money, but over a country as large as ours, perhaps not so big. And I know there will be a lot of demand. I mean, I'm thinking of my own riding, especially for a food infrastructure fund. How fast do you anticipate this $19 million is going to be spent? And does it actually quite match up with the reality of the demand that is probably going to be out there for it?
Look, I can't probably speak to the demand out there. So our efforts are to roll. We're hoping to roll it out shortly, to start rolling out the food policy programming, or to start the rollout of that, launching it. How quickly we roll it out, it obviously, or how quickly the dollars go, will depend a bit on, a bunch of things, including take up and demand. I would say some of these programs are the first time we've done these at the federal level, and certainly for the agricultural department. So, in some ways, we're starting at a level that, is it the right level? I couldn't tell you for sure, but it's a level, and I think, it seems to be a good way to start the programming on a variety of tracks, and we will get a good sense of the demand, the types of project, and the interest, once we've got the programming going.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes, and thank you, Mr. McGregor. Maintenant, Madame Nassif pour 6 minutes.
Madame Nassif, 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming here, witnesses, to answer a question. My question is for Mrs. Wilkins and Mr. Forbes. In the list of transfer payments for 2018, the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food has a budget of $2.5 million, and since then there's a new program, Living Laboratories. Could you explain exactly what these living laboratories are? What is it exactly? We're launching a new program to do further research with producers, with people who work in the fields, living laboratories. Well, that doesn't refer to our laboratories. Normally, we are the ones conducting research, but we're trying to find active farms, and we're going to work with the producers. It goes back to what Mr. Dreeshen was saying. It's the producers who have the best understanding of how they work. So we could do research with them so that they learn, but so that we too will learn. What's the purpose of this program? The focus primarily is on environmental practices and the environment. So we're trying to improve the way we can improve our results from an environmental perspective. And how do you see this? Is it going to help a lot? As with all research, and I'm not a scientist myself, but scientists are very good at resulting research, are very good at looking at research results. So this will be a project that will cover many years, and we'll take a look at the data, the findings of the project, and then do an analysis of the results. Is this recurring financing, or are the farmers going to have to apply for it every year? No, it's recurring, 5 years. It's a 5-year program. Ms. Walker, do you wish to add anything to that? No? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nassif. Mr. Poisson, 6 minutes. Thank you for coming here today to provide us with more information. In addition to what the minister said earlier, I'd like to go to this whole issue of living laboratories. I had an opportunity to announce in a neighboring riding this project. There are 14 producers who are going to be part of the study. It's on organic products, and the farmers are going to participate financially as well. So it's really interesting. I'd like to know if you meet regularly with Farm Credit to talk about these issues. We know the machinery costs are rising. Yes, we do meet with them regularly. They provide a great deal of information on the situation for farmers, and they work on issues that are important for their clients. That could be funding. We know that they are also looking at mental health issues as well. So all of these questions are something that they do look at. I know that they work closely with their clients to learn more about their needs. And one thing that I'm that is very dear to my heart is the ongoing financing, sustainability of funding. I know that the report came out with results. Could you tell me more about the follow-up to this report? A report that we tabled, because there are many recommendations in this report. Well, what we normally do is we take a look at the report. We have a formal process that we follow. We look at the details. We provide a response. That's the process that we will be following for each and every standing committee report. But we take the recommendations seriously. We, as a department, look at the report in great detail to understand what the priorities are and to maybe even adjust our own process. We also work with the government for when it comes to a more official response to the committee. Could you talk about young farmers that are taking over? Are you looking at their needs? Can we really attract young farmers? We're trying to do this. I said previously that the whole issue of labor and getting people into farming is something that's very important. We work with provinces on a regular basis. Each government level has its own program to look at things such as 4-H clubs and other organizations that work in this sector. This could be in the form of provincial programs, FedProv programs. Are we doing enough? I don't have an answer to that, but it's a challenge for the world economy. We're all getting older, and there's a need to get young people to go into lots of different sectors. Earlier, the minister talked about the need to replace our scientists. That's another aspect of the challenge. So this is all important, and I know that we have to look for replacements in both the farming side and on the processing side. Last year our exports were worth $75 billion. Is there something that we can do more to allow us to achieve our objectives? We work. Are we already working very hard to increase our export opportunities for both our producers and processors? We're currently working more at the international level to look at key sectors. We want to have a much greater Canadian representation in international organizations such as the AFO, because that's where the trade rules are worked out. That's where they're established, where they're discussed. We want to have a system where the rules are science-based. That's one of the purposes of these investments. And the trade commissioners' positions outside the country are there to help exporters gain greater access to markets and to help importers. So those are significant investments. And finally, we also work with companies that wish to export. We try to tell them how to begin the process if they want to export to a given country. This is particularly important for small and medium-sized businesses. let's say there's a demand in China or Japan for a particular product, we have to help them along with the process. Mr. Bettold, 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Forbes and Ms. Walker, for coming here today. I have a series of short questions. The minister said that there had been an exchange yesterday with China. Can you tell us at what level this is happening? Our main representative was the director at CFIA, who conducted the conversation with his Chinese experts. So we're still at the director level? Yeah, director general. But what about was the CEO of the agency involved? No, this was a technical discussion. The other question I had for you, and this pertains to transport of animals. The industry is saying that you're resolving all of this. So, and the results should be known in a year and a half's time when the report comes out. Do the two agencies talk to each other? How can you explain the fact that you're doing an exhaustive study on this? Because the industry is willing to comply with the studies. Yeah, if the results are positive, we're going to rely on those results. But on the other hand, it's as if you're working in separate silos. So explain, where's the problem? Dr. Kama can add to this conversation because he's the agency representative. But as Dr. Kama said, the regulations are being implemented, I believe, for 90, it will now have an impact on 98%. And 98% of the rules are now jiving. I know that you're putting a lot of resources on that study. But what's the point of doing such a study? If we implement the rules before we get the report, what's the point? I think the study will help. We're looking at how we can be consistent, how we can comply with the. It's not just about the rules themselves, it's how we can be compliant with the rules. So compliance, well, and to be coherent, you have to kind of, I think that this coherence would be that you would get all the results from all of the studies, because these findings may have different consequences. I'm going to change topics now. Could you tell me, there's the second phase of the dairy project. The money has been handed out. When will we have access to the list of people who are going to be receiving this stage 2 money? I can send you not the names, but I can give you the figures. I can give you an update of where we are in the process. For this $350 million, I can find out how much has been allocated, how much remains. No, the money for the producers and money for the, yeah, I can send you the figures. I can tell you where we are as things now stand. You were supposed to send who's getting subsidies. What are the timelines for that? I think that's all published in public accounts. Madam Walker has the figures here. You could just send them to us. I just want to know where we are. I'd just like an update. 15 seconds. Mr. Shipley wanted to conclude.
45, retailers 55, I think it is. What's your policy that you're presenting to the minister to make that fair for our processors and our producers? And the suggestion is in around the 85%.
Yeah, just to be clear, the 50-50 roughly TRQ allocation is under CETA for the CPTPP, the preliminary allocation, the allocation thus far is around 85%, sort of the number that you were positing. So I think the process is as the minister described, but I'll just take a little bit more time.
Not much time for that. I heard her. So.
Okay, well, just to say, we work with the sector and with the Minister or the Global Affairs Canada to engage on, what the sector is looking for out of this process, and then it is the Minister of International Trade's decision.
And I want to move to transportation quickly. 99.6% compliance in terms of the transportation of livestock. It's like the front of package labeling. And Mr. Kamal, I was surprised at what you just said, because you said, given that we are an export nation, that we actually need to make sure in terms of our transportation standards. And yet we're going to put front of package labeling on many of our cuts of beef and pork and on our products of dairy. Now, it seems to me if we're going to be an export nation, we've got a conflicting message here. So our consumers in Canada were saying, whoop, be careful, this is not healthy, this is not good, but we're going to send delegations around the world through our free trade. Listen, we've got the safest food in the world, you should be buying it. Is that not a contradiction in terms of policy for the government?
Very quickly, if you can.
What I was trying to say is that animal welfare is front and center for all consumers, both domestic and international. And if you don't follow what is happening in the international scene, then I think we don't have that tool to negotiate market access. So that's what I was trying to say, that we need to bring ourselves to the international standard. That's what we have done. We're not there, but at least looking at the geographical reality in Canada and looking how movements of animals take place and how the systems have changed since 1976 when this regulation was put in place. So
That's a problem with China and our beef inspections right now.
Shibley. Now, Mr. Peschilito, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes because we're going to have to go through the approving the main, so it's yours.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Chris or Mr. Forbes, Ms. Nassif touched on our possible expanding trade with Japan. Our trade minister, Mr. Carr, is off to Japan as we speak. Obviously, they're the lead on this. But on the agricultural side, what things can the department be doing to lay a foundation that if there is a willingness on the part of the Japanese government, and there may be, given the geopolitics that's occurring internationally, what can we do or what can you guys do as a department to lay the foundation for expanding our trade into Japan, perhaps for hogs and canola? And other products as well.
I mean, so I think there's a few things. I mean, when we have the foundations with the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which is, I think improving the trade, the market access and the tariff conditions for our exporters going into Japan, I think that's critically important. I think the second piece is often being able to respond to what sector sees as opportunities in Japan, and whether that's again through our people on the ground in Japan who are able to work with local businesses to identify connections, whether that's our folks here, ministers kind of bringing people to open doors, that can happen. I think technical discussions too over issues that may sometimes be barriers to trade, and how we have the science-based discussion that allows those markets to open for beef, for example, and potentially other commodities. So it's a range of issues. It does take the whole toolkit, I would say, if that's the right analogy, in terms of both getting market access, developing the markets, and working with exporters to help them take advantage.
I believe it was Mr. Dreeshen who mentioned our transportation policy, and it seems to me that one of the not failures but perhaps challenges or an issue that we can work on is the number of slaughterhouses in Canada and the geographical distribution of them. Basically, we don't have enough slaughterhouses. The supply chains are so wide, and maybe that was an industry decision for profit. Perhaps it was a decision made by CFIA for cutting back. I don't know. But my question to both Mr. Kamal and to you, Chris, is there a possibility, is there a willingness and a possibility to have more slaughterhouses across the country? B, if that's the case, how does that work? I'll open it up to you.
So maybe just to say, I think on slaughter capacity, I think one of the things that came out in what you'll often hear from the processors is access to workers was important, and so one of the things that came out in the budget was a pilot program for facilities that had a need for permanent year-round work access, so an immigration pilot, and that the details of that haven't been announced yet, but that will ideally address some of the big issues that some of the larger processors have around just having enough workers to take advantage of processing. And I think if we can tackle the labor issue, I would say it then comes down to things like, do you have the competitive business environment? The trade deals are a big help. I would say the tax system is very positive in Canada. We talked a bit earlier about regulation and how to make regulation both taking advantage of our strong regulatory system and the reputation that brings us, but also making sure that it is efficient for companies that are looking to invest. So you have the whole package together, I think, about creating a good business environment for these kind of facilities.
Why are we having problems finding workers for the slaughterhouses? Is it because of the pay? Is it because folks don't want to be in an environment where animals are being slaughtered in that way?
I mean, I'm not in the hiring, business there, but I guess I would say if you look at labor markets across the country, one of the challenges, it's a good challenge to have probably, is that the unemployment rates are very low. And so, that's thing one. It goes, I think, Monsieur Poisson and others have raised this. I would say once you get past the low unemployment rates, you do get to these difficult jobs, a lot of them. They're physically demanding. They're not for everybody, right? And so you need to have, I don't think it's a question of pay. Sometimes it's just a matter of availability of people, and I think that's where this immigration pilot was headed.
Chris, thank you. Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you, Mr. Cicilito, and thank you to the panel. We'll have to stop now because we have to adopt the report. Alors, merci, Monsieur Chris Forbes, député.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes, Deputy Minister, and thank you, Mr. Walker, Dr. Cavell.
Now we'll go ahead and on va adopter le rapport de crédit des budgets. Alors, conforme.
So pursuant to Standing Order 81-4, the committee will now deal with the votes for the estimates ending March 31st, 2020, less the provisional votes agreed to by the House on Monday, January 20th, 2019.
Unanimous consent to pour disposer de tous les crédits en une motion. Do I have the unanimous consent to dispose of all the? Nope. So we don't. Okay, so we'll go. We'll vote on every one. So individual votes. We will start with vote one. Shall vote one under the Canadian Dairy Commission carry. Amount is $2,829,667,000. Shall it carry? On division. Are we on that side? Are we?
You don't want?
We agree.
That's fine.
Support all of it.
On division, Mr.
On division.
Mr. Berthold, Mr. Drishin.
On division.
And
C'est bon.
Monsieur, hein?
Just one division.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay.
Sinon, je vais demander un vote.
If no, I will ask for a vote.
Canadian Grain Commission carry.
On division.
On division. I'll agree. Okay, on division. Shall vote. This one here. Shall vote. Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food carry.
On division.
Division. Okay. Shall vote 10 under Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food carry.
On division.
Okay, and shall vote 15 under Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food carry.
On division.
Okay, and now shall I report the main estimates to the House?
Well, could we talk about it?
Maybe in July, I don't know, August, July, who knows? So that's it. Before we, that's all for the report. Before we adjourn, I would like to thank Ariane. This will be her last day. Ça va être sa dernière journée. And unfortunately for us, but fortunately for her, she, I guess her family expanding. Ariane, je veux juste te dire que tu as été.
Ariane, I just want to say that you were wonderful. She did everything for me.
Ariane, the work that you've done, and we wish you all the best with your new family. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Merci. Merci. C'était un privilège.
Thank you. It was a real privilege to work with you, and I got to work with you professionally and personally, so I will continue to ensure that we respect the rules, but the rules will be at the house now, at my home.
Alors, merci tout le monde.
So thank you, everyone, and that completes our meeting.